In today's show, we're going to talk about Power Automate follow-up flow. Whoa, those are hard to say. But the idea here is we're going to show you one of the flows we use to run the business here at Power Apps 911 that once a week sends an email of all the follow-up tasks from our leads list. And while that sounds kind of straightforward, we're going to do some crazy Odata queries, we're going to do some distinct, and a bunch of other little tiny hard things that make this flow possible. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with Power Apps 911. Those guys. And today, we're going to do a Power Automate follow-up flow. There, I said it better that time. And the idea here is that, here at the company, right, we run lots of these flows for our leads list. And so our leads list has got a bunch of data in a SharePoint list. So I'm going to show you that list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see that every Monday, we go through and we find all of the ones that are past due on follow-up. And we're going to look at some different things like what are null or not. We're going to look at different statuses. So we have a very complex multi-step Odata query to get the right records. Once we find all those records, then what we're going to do is we're going to find the distinct people, right? So for example, Sarah might have 5 of these to do. And so we're going to find all Sarah's records and then send her one email with an HTML table inside of it of all the ones that she needs to follow up with. So there's a lot of just little nuances, right? This flow sounds so easy to do, but I can tell you that we've had people spend hours on it before I kind of broke it down into a bunch of little baby steps. So that's what I'm gonna do for you guys today is walk you through all those baby steps of how this works. Sound like fun? I thought so. Anyway, let's switch over to my desktop and take a look. Okay, so over here on the desktop, I've got the example of the email that Sarah got this morning. Yes, I've grayed out all the customer names. You can't know our customer names and their descriptions, but you get the idea, right? So it has a few columns: customer, status, follow-up date, and description. I also do a bunch of little things in this flow that make my life easier. So for example, here's a link to the leads list. So if Sarah needs to jump straight to that to go update one of these so she doesn't get an email next week, perfect. Also down here at the bottom, you can see that I'm like, hey, this is auto-generated by flow. Here's the name of the flow. What does the flow do? What are the query parameters? All of these little things because, once again, we're a small business and we have dozens of these types of things going on. And so it might be 2 years before we look at this next time. But by having the details down there in the bottom of the email, one day Sarah might be like, I'm not getting my follow-ups anymore. And then she'd kind of look at this and be like, you know what? Well, we changed the status from on hold to holding forever. And so she wouldn't get those statuses because that wouldn't match the criteria of on hold. So just trying to expose the details without overwhelming the user. So if they change the data later, they understand why they didn't get it. Kind of cool, right? So anyway, so that's the email we're going to generate, or approximation what we're going to generate. And so then here, what I did to make it easier for us was I just made a copy of the leads list, right, our actual production one. And so then here we made a bunch of fake ones. So thank you, Brody, for making me a bunch of fake data. But this is going to give us some data we can play with without having to gray out everything. And if you're wondering, how did I quickly make leads list copy? Remember, in SharePoint, you can go over here. And so I just went to site content. And then when I did new list, I chose from existing list. And then I browsed to our production list. And so then all the columns, all the views, all of that just magically flew over. I didn't have to do any work. I'm super lazy. I don't like doing work. So remember, great way to build these things, whether you're using it to make YouTube videos or maybe you just want to test it and do that type of stuff. Either way, that was how we quickly got there. Okay, so now I thought I was just showing you the flow and like explaining it, but I don't think that's as fun. So we're going to build out the flow. So we'll jump over here to flow, and the first thing we're going to do is it's going to be a scheduled cloud flow. We're going to call this follow-up video. Yeah, seems reasonable to me. Starts today, great, repeats once a week, and then on what day it repeats on Mondays, right? Because we just, I did that backwards. I just wanted to go on Mondays. Every Monday morning, I want the team to start their week with, hey, here's all the leads you haven't followed up on. There you go. Quick, easy. Oh, and ours is set at 8 a.m. But you can set it whenever you want. There you go. So that's how that would work. So we hit create. Flow will then make that trigger for us that does all the work. So that little wizard's kind of handy there. Look at this. Runs on Monday every week. Boom. Okay. So then what's the first thing that we're going to do every Monday at 8 a.m.? First thing we need to do is do a SharePoint Get Items because that's where we keep the leads list, right? I just showed you. So we're going to do a Get Items. And then your site address. And so then here we're going to my site, and then our list should be leads list copy, something like that. There it is. And so then This, as you know, I hope, would get all the items from our SharePoint list. Now, I don't want all the items though, right? Because I don't want to get all the items and then filter them. That's one of those things we talked about in our class. I want to make SharePoint do the work. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this filter query and write ourselves an Odata query to get just the records we want. And so how do I know what records I want? So we're going to start with the easier one. We're going to go over here and we're going to look and we're going to say, well, there's a column called follow-up week. Notice there's a little SharePoint conditional formatting. And so we want to find, let's start with all the ones where it is null. Okay, so first thing you need to know is what is the name of this column, right? Not follow-up week, because Odata queries are not the display name, they are the system name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to list settings, and then I'm going to find follow-up week right here. And so if you click on this list, what you're going to see up here in the top is, look, it says ampersand field equals date for follow-up. So this column was originally called date for follow-up. So that is the Odata name, right? And its exact spelling. So I'm going to copy that. This is important to understand. It has to be spelled and capitalized exactly the right way, or it's not going to work. But so copying from there avoids any chaos. We'll go over here and we're going to say date for follow-up, EQ, null. Okay, so that's going to be our first one. And then we're going to do down here, and we're going to do a new step, and we're going to do a compose. And in the compose, what we're going to do is we're going to do the function called length, which is the equivalent of Power Apps count rows. And then inside the parentheses here, what we're going to do is we're going to put the value. That's the table that comes back from the get items. It's going to tell us how many rows it got. So say, okay, we'll do a quick save. All right, it's saved. And if I'm correct, if I did this right, I think it'll get about 3 rows. So we'll do a test, manually test, and test, run the flow, and then done. All those buttons under my face, but you know what those buttons are. It ran almost instantly. And then the compose, we got 3 rows, right? We know that there's more than 3 rows over here. I don't know how many there is, but there's more than 3. So it's just getting the ones where the follow-up week is null. Great. Now, we want more than that though. I want all the ones where the follow-up week is null or the follow-up week is this week, right? I want Sarah to be preemptive, right? Go talk to the people she's supposed to follow up this week instead of just telling her she's past due. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to need to do a second query. So we're going to edit this. I'm going to go back here to get items. And so what you can do with Odata is you can say or, and then our date for follow-up is less than LT. And so now we need to calculate a date. Okay. And so we know that if we did UTC now, that would get now, but we don't want today's date, right? We want today plus whatever, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to expressions, and then we're going to do something like this. Add days. What do you want to add to? So we're going to use UTC now, which is the current date and time. And then how many days do we want to add? We want to, for the follow-up for the week, so we're going to do 6. And importantly, we're going to do comma. Remember that with add days, there is a optional, see over in the right format question mark, there's an optional parameter for the format of the actual days. And so what we want to use here is, because we need it to come out the way that Odata wants it, is we're going to do this. We're going to put it in single quotes, right, because it's text, for lowercase y's, dash mm, notice the m's are uppercase, dash dd. Right, and so that's the year dash month dash day. Okay, and so if we do this and say okay, then that should automatically spit out the format. Now the other thing to keep in mind is that when you're doing dates with Odata, they need to be in single quotes. So I need to put a single quote on each side of that. Okay, and we'll see what that looks like in just a second, but that should work. So we'll do another test automatically, and we're going to get more than 3. I don't know the exact number, but we're going to get, let's see if we look real quick. So 3, and then all these other ones that are in red. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So I think we'll get 7. Compose, we got 7. Great. Remember, you can expand get items at this point and say show more, and you can check yourself. Date for follow-up, EQ null, or lowercase or, date for follow-up, LT, 2022-12-18. Today's the 12th, 6 days from the 18th. And notice those single quotes around it. It would not have worked if you had not put those quotes there. But there you go. That finds all the people that are all the ones that need to be followed up for today. Now, we want to go one more step further. We're not going to go all the way like we did in my production one, but we're going to make one more thing. Okay, so what we wanted there so what we wanted was we wanted all of these. So I'm going to take this now. I'm going to wrap it in parentheses. Remember from math class how you can do like order of operations? So I just kind of group those two together. So I need one of those two things to be true. And then what I need is I need an and. Because not only do I need that to be true, but the only things that we actually care about are things that have a status of, well, for now we're just going to do quote sent, right? Like we have 4 or 5 of these we did, but right now we're just going to do quote sent. So what do I need to do? I need to do the same little thing. I need to see what status is. So list settings, we'll find status over here. We'll click on status. So status is status, so that'll be easy. And then what did I just say I wanted to do? I forget, but like, so here's all the possible options. I think it's quote sent, so we'll copy that. And so I'm just going to copy it out there so I don't mess it up. And so then now if we do this and say, and status EQ, it's text again, so single quotes, paste in the quote sent, just like that. And then if we say, let's try to test this and see that, so we should get a much smaller number again, right? I think we might get 1. I don't remember exactly. Let's look. All right, our flow succeeded, and we did. We got exactly 1, because the only one, if we look back at the data, we're going to see that the only one that got that, change this to all items, was that very first one. Quotes went and blank was here. All right, because we don't want this one, because why? This one is already sold, needs scheduled. We don't care. This one's in discovery, so Sarah should do this one, and she should have had a follow-up week. Tis. So how do we add this discovery in there? We'll go back to our flow. We will edit this again. And so then now we're going to have to do that or, and then we'll say status EQ discovery. And then once again, this whole section needs to be in the parentheses. So basically we're just saying, hey, as long as that one of those first 2 things is true and one of these second things are true, then we should get a hit. So now our number should go up. And once again, I'm guessing it's going to be 2, but I haven't looked at our sample data enough. But while that's running, let's just think for a second. So we're not going to do any more, but in our production version, oh, no, we're not. We're going to talk about this error. So what happened? I don't know. It said, and status EQ swoot or whatever is not valid. What did I do wrong? Let's look and see. So that part looks fine. And status EQ quote sent. Oh, you know what I did? I see it right away. I did capital O for R, or meh. This is why looking at it in this view is so much easier. So we'll go back over here. We'll change this to lowercase o, and then we'll do another test. Save and test. So anyway, what I was saying is that we did quote sent in discovery. And so in our production, when we have like 5 different statuses we check for, so it's just or status equals blah, or status equals blah. So we ended up with like 5 of those, right? So now we're getting 3 hits. Perfect. Okay. So hopefully that's cool, right? We're getting the right things. Remember, you could also, if you wanted to, click here to look at the raw data. Sometimes you want to do this because you want to validate against the raw data because you have too much to look up. We're not going to do that, but remember that raw data is very helpful for me from time to time. All right, that all looks good. And so now what we want to do is now we need to start to figure out what do we have, right? So we're getting the items that match. You know what, and actually what we're going to do just so we get all the items again, or the bigger set, we're going to get rid of this, right? And the reason I'm getting rid of this, so I said, I want to get more items. I want more data. And so then now what I want to do is I want to go down here and I need to find the right stuff, right? So we're going to leave this composed. You could delete this composed. It's not in my production flow, but it helps to troubleshoot. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say select. So the select data operation in Power Automate, what it does is it says, all right, I'm going to take a table like the value, the table that just came from Get Items, and I want to select a specific field. So we're going to call this email. I'm going to write it like that. And then what field do we want to pull out of here? So if you look in the Get Items dynamic content, we're going to say who sent the quote, because that's who needs to get the email. But we're going to go down here. Who sent the quote is a people field in our SharePoint list. That's a complex record. And so down here further is who sent the quote and their actual email address, right? I want to be able to send Sarah that email. So I don't want Sarah's whole record. I just want Sarah at powerapps911.com. And so who sent the quote email is giving us that action, right? Right there. Who sent the quote email. So So the select, all this is doing is pulling this out and taking that big table and just giving us a single column table with all of the email addresses. Why do we want that? Because I want to find the distinct email addresses in there. So to get the distinct email addresses, what you do is you're going to use the union function. And because we want to loop through that distinct list, we're going to go right here, new step. We're going to search for apply to each. So apply to each, right? Usually this gets added for us. We haven't added ourselves here. And so here we're going to add an expression, and we're going to add the expression union. And so then it's like, all right, what data set do you want to do a union of? Dynamic content from the select its output. So you're going to do that, comma, and then select output. So you're looking at the table, and when you look at the table twice and find a union, that gets you all the distinct ways, right? So this is how you get a distinct in Power Automate. You're going to use the union function. Say okay. And then, you know me, we're just going to throw a compose right here. And then we just want to see what we're getting. So just going to put our cursor in there. And then if we scroll all the way to the bottom, there is apply to each the current item. Okay. So let's test this and see what happens. This will give us a better idea. We know that we're getting a whole bunch of records, all the ones that are past due from a time standpoint, right? We got rid of the other column just so we got more data back. And so then now if we go down here, apply to each, you can see that this ran twice. And if we look in the compose, so Shane at powerapps911.com has past due, naughty boy. And then Nicola at powerapps911.com has past due. So now from this big giant list of all of our leads, right, we know that just those two people have some past due ones, and we need to notify both of them about their past due activity. Okay, so there we go. And now that we know that we're getting the right person, also notice the format. It is email and then that, right? So see the little curly brackets? That means it's a record that is coming back. That's important because we just literally want Nicola at powerapps911.com and Shane, right? So edit. What we're going to do is we're going to first, I did this differently in our production. I'm going to show you guys a different way to do this. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to click once on this current item, Control C, go to expressions and paste it in. When you copy and paste like that, there's a curly bracket at the end. We're going to delete that, backspace. We're going to go to the front of the line, and then we're going to delete that @ sign and that. So we just have items applied to each. So that returns the current record that you're on. And so if you have that current record, we don't want the whole record though. We want just that one field. We want just Nicola's email address, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a question mark, right? This is kind of the Power Apps equivalent of a dot. And then what column do we want? It's in square brackets, single quote, and then it's email in all uppercase. Now, that's why we just peeked a second ago with that compose to see what it was. Or you could go back up here and, oh, I just undid my work. Oh! But up here, you could see I did it in capital email. Go back in here again. You have to type this over again because Flow lets me mess up. So we'll paste that in. We'll delete that. There you go. We get to do it twice. Who doesn't want to do it twice, right? Question mark, square bracket, single quote, email. So this time I'll hit OK before I click away. And so then now we'll be able to see just the email in there. And I'm pretty sure that's going to work. So we're just going to copy that out. And then we're going to go here and add an action. And so now what we want to do, remember, we're going to do this apply to each once for each person. So once for me, once for Nicola. So what we're going to do is we're on the first one was me. So we want to find all my records using the filter. So data operation, filter array. Okay. Now the array to filter, because you could have done another get items and called SharePoint again, but who wants to bother SharePoint? We've already got the data, right? So I'm going to say filter my array. And what array am I going to filter? The get items value, right? That was the data that came back. And then in there, what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, from get items, I want the who sent the quote responsible email again. And I want it where is equal to what? Expression, that crazy expression, right? Because that's what's going to get us the Shane email and the Nicola email. We'll say okay. And then just for fun, we will throw a compose in here again, and then we'll do that whole count rows so we can make sure that we're getting what we expect, right? So, or not count rows, it's called length in this thing. So we'll do length. Oh, we'll pull this up the screen so you can see it easier. And then the length of the output from filter. Okay, so then now we should see all of our data come back, I hope. We'll save and test and find out. All right, our flow ran successfully. So remember, we got 7 total. And so then we did the distinct that got the 2 people. And so if we look at the apply to each, right, we're going through the 2. And then this got my email address, perfect. If you look in here in their filter, you should see that we got output, yay! And then compose, so it looks like I have 4, so 7 minus 4 is 3. So if Nicola has 3, we are in business. So we'll switch to next. It said it got Nicola, it shows some data here. Nicola got 3. So the 7 are broken up, right? There's 4 for me, 3 for Nicola. Yay! We are so close, folks. I know the video feels long, but hopefully you're learning cool stuff. Okay, so we'll get rid of this compose. We don't need this one. Just like, remember, we also, if you wanted to be cleaner, you could get rid of this one, but it helps me troubleshoot. So filter rate. So now that we've got the filter data, we've got just Shane's 4 records. What we're going to do is we're going to add an action, and we're going to go right here, and we're going to do HTML. And so there is a data operation in Flow called create HTML table. What this does is takes a table of data like our filter arrays. Yeah. So we're going to choose the body. And so then now, if you expand this out, columns. So we can either let it automatically make a bunch of HTML columns, or we could do custom here. And so then now we could define our own custom columns, right? So I'm going to cheat and look over here. And so we're going to have a column for customer. Oh, we're then going to have a column for status, column for follow update, and then a status column or a 4th column for description. Okay, I probably didn't spell description. Oh well. So then for the value, this is a little bit harder than it should be. But so because if you search for value, if you come over here to dynamic, you type in customer, that's the get items customer. We don't want that one, right? What we need is we need the customer, or we need the get from the filter array, right? We need its customer. And so unfortunately, they make this a little trickier than it should be. So basically to get this, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to write an expression. You're gonna have to go here and you're gonna say item, like so. And then for the item, what do you want? You want the customer, but what you have to do, notice how the square bracket single quotes, is you have to know what is the system name of that. So you'd have to go back over here. There's other ways to find it, but this is the most most repeatable way for people that are new at this. So you go to list settings and you go look at customer and you click on it. And so then you'd see that it is title, right? So we'd copy that, go back over here and then paste title in there, right? So like that. And then if you're really smart, you probably would have copied this. So then now we go to status, we go to expression. We already know that status is status from our Odata query earlier. So boom. We know that follow update was what? I don't remember exactly either, but we'll say control paste. We'll delete title out of there, and then we'll do Windows V to get my clipboard history. And it was date for follow-up. Perfect. Say OK. And then description's the last one. I don't know the answer to that one, so we'll do paste. Oh, nope. Control Z, Windows V. Third time's a charm, I promise. Delete Windows V. There we go. And so for the description now, we need to just go back over here and we'll click on the column name again. We'll find it the old way. Description, oh, look at that description. Control C. Paste that in there. Oh, make sure you get between the single quotes. Say OK. That should make our HTML table. All right, let's test it again. All right, our test finished. If we look at the create HTML table, oh, so we can see that that one is a little goofy. All right, so what did we do wrong? We say we got the status column wrong. All right. So we need to fix the status column, but the description worked. All right, the follow update worked. Okay. All right, and if we looked at Nicola's, obviously we'd just see the same, that we got that one column wrong, but we did, but it works. All right. So how do we get the status one? Well, let's edit our flow and fix it. So what happened here, right, is even though that yes, status is a, what do you call that? Status is a choice column. So choice columns are complex columns. So it's not just status. Status is the whole record. That's why we saw that garbage. What we really need is to click in here. And so we need status slash value. I think it's capital V though, like so. And we'll say update, and let's run the test again and make sure, but I think that's what I did wrong. All right, our test is done. We'll say create HTML table. Much better. Whoa, sorry about that. All right, there you go. Even I screw up all the time, actually. Anyway, all right, so now we've got it. So guess what? All we gotta do now is send an email. So edit, and I'm gonna show you one trick about this email. So we're gonna say add action, and then we're gonna go here and we're gonna say Outlook, send email. And so then now, who are you going to send the email to? So obviously who we really want to send the email to is the dynamic content, the email, right? And we know, where did we have that at? If we scroll back up here to filter array. So this items apply to each email is the email address we want to send it to. So we're going to click in there and we're going to copy that. But what else do we know? We know that those emails will go to me and Nicola, or in the case of when I was writing this for our real production one, right, it would have went to Sarah and Aubrey and Jennifer and like a whole bunch of people that I didn't want to bother when I was testing. This is often the case. I want to build these flows and validate my logic without bothering these people. So what we're going to do is we're going to hard code that right now. We're going to send all of these to me. So I'm going to hit this, send it to Shane. There we go. And so then, right, follow up. And then in the body, we can put whatever text we wanted, but really what you want from the create HTML table is the output here, right? So that will put the HTML table in there. And then what I'm going to say is email would have went to, and then I'm going to do expression and I'm going to paste this in. Okay. Why? So now both emails are going to come to me right now. One's going to say it should have went to me because I was supposed to get one of the emails. But for Nicola's email, it's also going to come to me, but down here, it'll say her email address. So this is a way for me to validate that I have the right email string without actually bothering her until we're ready to go live. This is something I do all the time when I'm building customer flows because I don't want to spam their CEO, right? But I need to make sure that I've got their email address. So I just throw it in the body and send it all to me. But now if we do a test, we should hopefully see that it all goes to me and that we see 2 HTML tables and we are in shape. So one sec. All right, so here they are. Look, I got email. I got a nice HTML table. We could add that other text that you saw in our production email, no problem. And it would have went to me, which it did go to me anyway, but that's the user's email. And that's a valid email address. I know if I put that in the 2 line, they would have got it. And then if we look at this other one, these are all of Nicola's follow-ups, and she would have gotten the email. Perfectamundo. So there you go. That is an actual flow that we use to run our business, all built over the course of probably half an hour. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but hopefully you enjoyed that. So do you have any thoughts, questions, comments, any of those fun things? Leave them below, right? Helps, right? It drives future questions. I make videos sometimes based off your comments. I try to reply to as many as I can. And also while you're down there, click the subscribe button, right? I need more subscribers. Show me some more subscription love, please. Yeah. And with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day. Hey, me again. Before you go, click on the subscribe button, right? Join the list of 100,000 plus people that have subscribed already. Or if you need any help, right? Check us out at Power Apps 911. We do big projects, little projects. We do training. We do everything, and we can help you. Or if you want to see more videos, you probably do, then just click on the playlist above. Cool? Thanks, and have a great day.